Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bravo Tea with a Stay-at-Home Mom. I'm Erica, and I'm ready to talk all things Bravo. Welcome back, everybody, and today I have a super special guest on my bonus episode. Say hi, Bella.
Hi, Bella.
Oh, you're funny. I know that Mommy watches Bravo, but what's your favorite TV show?
Bluey.
Bluey?
Yes.
Yeah, we have that on the TV all the time here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not always. When we're at school, Bobby always watches her shows.
Yeah, that's when I watch my shows.
Oh, it's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair. I hope everybody liked my short guest that I had at the beginning. That was our oldest daughter, Bella, and she was like, "Can I come on your podcast, please?" And that was so cute that she got to sit here with me. And I'm sure I'll have her back on in the summer saying a little couple things. Like she wants to talk about Taylor Swift on here. So when she gets a little less shy, maybe she'll do a little Taylor Swift song for us for an intro. But on to the SummerHouse Finale. So I wanted to dedicate a whole episode just to this because I'm actually going to have a guest on to recap the Real Housewives of New Jersey. So I thought this one deserved its own, a little bonus episode for you guys to enjoy on your Sunday, whether you are heading to brunch or if you're just relaxing in the house, doing like Sunday reset, cleaning your whole entire house. I always watch those videos on Instagram and I'm like, I would love to do that, but like, where's your family? Where's all the kids and the husband? What do they leave you for like 5 hours to clean? Like, I want to reset my whole house, but everyone's in my house on Sunday. So, I have some feelings about the SummerHouse Finale. So let's just dive right into it. So we pick back up at the Doomsday Party, and Carl and Lindsay are having their fight. And he said that Lindsay just loves to play victim. And Lindsay's like, I am done with this conversation. I want to go like drink and have fun. Bye bye. And Danielle and Lindsay go inside to talk. And she's like, he just wants me to be soft and tender. And that's not my personality. Now, I have to fully agree with Lindsay on this one. I feel like Carl at this juncture is like panicked that Lindsay has this personality, but it's also disappointing that he's judging her on the personality she's always had. Like, Lindsay has always acted this way with all the boyfriends on the show. I mean, he has been on the show the whole time with her, so he has actually got firsthand preview look at how she does act with men, but just how she acts in general. Like, she is not soft and tender. She is kind of a hard ass, but in like a good way. I mean, yes, I think she could be, I guess, a little softer with him, but that's not her personality. So it's like you saying, "Can you please do this over and over again?" She's not going to. She's a grown adult. This is her personality at this point. She's not changing. And it would be bad if she changed for him because then she would resent that and vice versa. And then Gabby comes in and crashes the talk with a giant tequila bottle. And she's just like, "Oh my God, are we having the soft and tender talk again?" And it's like, yes. So she's like, Lindsay's like, he spent 9 months trying to figure out what he wants to do for like a career. And I've kind of had it. And I do agree with that also. I feel like him getting a career coach was crazy because ultimately we now know in real time that he's just at Loverboy almost basically doing the same thing. So it's like you needed to spend that long to think about what you wanted to do. And we'll get into like him talking about the stuff at the very end because then he literally lists everything he wanted to do. And I'm like, that's a really long list. And they were all polar opposite things. So no wonder Lindsay is panicking because that was just crazy when he said that. But we'll talk about it at the end. I have to also say the whole entire time I was watching the episode, I was like, I just want to see the end when they break up. Honestly, like I was like, this is so mean, but like I don't care about anything. I just want to see the end. But Ciara said that commitment. So she's talking about West because she's just kind of starting to worry about, I feel like the talk that they had when they were doing the horse date, that he's like scared of commitment. But to me, I'm agreeing with Ciara because commitment does not have to mean something bad. It just means I'm only seeing you and you're only seeing me because that's what we should do, because if not, you would be cheating on me basically if you're seeing other people. And she's like, it does not have to be shackles and chains. She's like, commitment could be we go to Italy together, we go to weddings together, I come meet your family, we go to games like football or basketball games. She's like, honey, you haven't seen shackles and chains. And I agree with her. She just wants to know, like, he doesn't want to talk or sleep with any other girls, and she's the only one. The only thing I don't agree with that Ciara is doing is she hasn't slept with Wes. So it would be kind of weird at their age to be like, hey, we're boyfriend and girlfriend and we've never slept together, even though I guess there are some people like, didn't Jessica Simpson and Nick Lachey save each other like for marriage? Like they married virgins, which and I'm sure people literally still do that, so it's, like, no judgment, but West and Ciara aren't those type of people because they have slept with people before. So I think at this juncture, West is just wondering why Ciara doesn't wanna sleep with him, but I think it's because she's just so afraid that once she does that, she'll be, like, really committed to him, and he's being wishy-washy, which I don't like. The reunion's gonna be very fascinating because I think I'm gonna get mad. At least the way they made the trailer look for the reunion, it looks like he's saying he, had temptation and went elsewhere, like, after the show ended, and she looked a little sad, but we know how they can piece stuff together to make one thing look like another. Like, I am gonna sidetrack and say, I was doing the dishes today, and I was, like, thinking about the beginning of Summer House, the trailer, when they put it together, and they do this thing to us where they kind of fool us and make us look like people are talking to, like, the person they're really talking to, but they're not. Does anyone remember in the trailer at the beginning, they made it look like Paige was calling Craig selfish when she actually was having that conversation with Kyle about Amanda wanting to do the bathing suit line and stepping away or like stepping down and taking a lesser role in Loverboy. She was not talking to Craigie because Craigie did not come back for the whole summer. He only came once. And I was waiting the whole season. I was like, when is Craig going to come back and him and Paige are going to have that argument? They didn't have no damn argument, but the way they did the trailer, they did them dirty. They did Paige and Craigie dirty and made it look like they were having an argument, and they really weren't. So this is why I can't believe the trailer for the reunion fully, that they're having that conversation about West and Ciara, because they may just be setting us up to look like that, and that's not at all what it is, but I am excited for the reunion. Anyway, I'm stepping ahead, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about that today, and I was like, "Oh my god, they never had an argument. How mean." I think Paige and Craig are doing phenomenal. I mean, I still don't understand how they're not living together at this point, but we'll see. It was supposed to be a prediction of an engagement when they were at that psychic thingy on that one episode. So they're supposed to be engaged this summer. So who knows? Maybe that'll be happening. But yeah, Ciara just wants to see a little commitment from West, and then Carl goes and talks to Kyle outside about wanting Lindsay to be more comforting. And he said that he is very soft with her with the trauma and abandonment issues she had with her mom, and he wants that from her. Well, it's like I said, you're not gonna change her, and she maybe that's why she acts so hard, because she had trauma in her life, and that's how she's gotten past it, and it's not like she's telling Carl how to act, she's just not going to respond the way he maybe wants her to, because that's not her personality. So, she's not really saying Carl's wrong for saying, "Oh, I want you to be this, and this," but she's like, "You're wrong for wanting me to be this, and this, because that's not my personality." But Danielle is spotted with Balloon Guy Joe. So he comes back for more because I didn't see any balloon arches at this party. So he was just purely a guest. And they're canoodling, and then they have this fire breather come out. So I guess Wes didn't want to spend money on balloons, which smart. Instead, he got this man that breathed fire like Gene Simmons. And it was so cool. And Kyle was like, "Can we take him everywhere?" And it was funny. Jesse Solomon was taking pictures of like Paige and Amanda on this prop, and he was like doing like modeling things. Like, remember on Austin Powers when he'd be like, "Yes, yes," like with the camera and say stuff. He's like, "Yeah, you're angry at the world. You don't talk to your dad. You love your dad. You hate your family." like getting them to kind of like be like sexy, moody model face. It was funny. But then Danielle takes Balloon Guy Joe into the bathroom and they shut the door. And I would like to know the status of her and Balloon Guy Joe till this day. I hope that's a question at the reunion. That'd be a good question too. But then everyone leaves the party. Ciara and Wes go to cuddle in her room, and I feel like a casual talk turned into a serious talk. She's like, "Do you like pet names?" And then he was like, "Yeah, like I call people baby." But he was insinuating he calls like everyone baby. And then she's like, "Yeah, I feel like you say like love you to like your friends." So she's probably referring to those attractive girls that are friends of Wes that were at the party. Like I bet he was saying bye to them and then he was like, "All right, love you, bye." Like to them. And Sierra's probably her ears perked up and she's probably like, don't really want you to say that because how do I know if like when you say love you to me, if you mean I love you, like emotionally, like we're in a relationship, I love you, or just like love you, because I say it to like everybody, say it to the hot dog stand guy down the street, like love you. She is just really starting to lay into him because it's the end. She wants to know like if they are going to have a little bit of longevity outside the house because that's what her and Paige and Amanda, like, quickly chatted about. Like, Amanda's like, "I feel like I wanted to go meet his friends because if he's gonna be, like, in our life, I need to be friends with his friends." And she's like, "I think you just need to, like, drop your guard and just let him in, and you know what? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like, don't look at it as you need to be my husband, the next person I date, because then you would be terrified to date him. And maybe this is just dating for fun, which is fine. Um, so like I said, I'm just really curious what happens at the reunion. But I was liking this serious like talk that they had because that needs to be ground rules. And I bet off camera they had a serious talk after the season. Like maybe they even like went to dinner or got drinks and she's like, "Look, the show is over. The cameras are not here. What do you want? Do you still want to see me or was that for the cameras?" Cuz I feel like she thinks Austin did that for like the cameras a little bit and she got played by him. So, I used to kind of be more on West's side this whole debacle, but now I'm more on Sierra's side. So, we shall see how that goes, but then the night ends and it's like Lindsay and Carl are like sleep in the same room. And I'm like, oh, I'm surprised they didn't go in separate rooms. See, at home, I think they're sleeping in separate rooms, but when they go to the house, they probably like feel almost embarrassed to do that. But Danielle is texting Lindsay and she's like, "Do you want to leave to get coffee?" And Lindsay's like, "Yes." And then when they get back, Lindsay and Carl talk in the kitchen. And he basically, this could have been a talk like, to kind of postpone the wedding. I know a lot of people are like, "I don't know how she was blindsided because look how the whole summer went." I watched the after show, and I posted on my Instagram a big post that Lindsay made the other day, and this is what she said. She's like, "We had so many talks, like this talk that they had in the kitchen that I will get more into." But she's like, 3 days before Carl broke the wedding off and our relationship off, he was inviting Jesse Solomon to our wedding. So, riddle me why he would do that, because if you wanna call the wedding off, why are you inviting someone 3 days before our wedding? Which is true, and I think it's messed up that he let her have the shower because I think he broke up with her like 2 weeks, excuse me, 2 weeks after her wedding shower. I'm just gonna take a sip of water. I was like choking on this matter. It's making me choked up, guys. But those are the only reasons that I feel like Lindsay thinks she was blindsided because like what human lets them have the shower and then they're inviting someone 3 days before? So then when they're having this talk in the kitchen, he basically wants her to change her personality, and he's like, "I wanna love her, and you don't, like, love show me tenderness, loving, you just kinda, like, shut shit down." And he's like, "This is a whole year since we got engaged, so it's the year to date." And then they do a flashback of their engagement, and you can just see in their faces like on the flashback, they are so happy because remember last season, we were nauseated by their love. This season, we're like, do they even like each other? And then when they pan back to the show and you see their faces, I'm like, they do not love each other. Like, that's why the whole season, I couldn't really get on Team Carl or Team Lindsay. I was on Team nobody. I was on Team somebody should call off the wedding. At this point, Paige is going to be the one. She wasn't even invited to the wedding. Like, that was so weird and rude. Um, if she was, though, I think she would have stood up and did the speak now or forever hold your peace. She would have been like, I just have to put a stop to this because you guys fight too much and this has got to end. But she wasn't even invited to the wedding. I mean, how freaking rude is that? Not only was Kyle not a best man, let alone a groomsman. He was a freaking flower boy. Paige wasn't even invited to the wedding. Like, but Carl's inviting Jesse Solomon 3 days before the wedding, which he already knew, I'm sorry, that he was calling the wedding off. And Jesse Solomon just got there. Like, they won't have even known him a full calendar year and he gets an invite, but Paige doesn't. And I thought it was weird. Okay, Lindsay, maybe you don't want Paige there, but Carl, do you want Paige there? They like hooked up for like a brief moment in time, if anyone remembers that. And it's just like she's been around for a long time. She's in the group. I'm not saying everyone is best friends on this show or when they're not filming this show that they're all at each other's apartments braiding each other's hair. But Lindsay and Paige really had a good summer. So I was just surprised in general. Like, it's not like Paige murdered Lindsay's family. Why wouldn't you just invite her to the wedding? Like, and I feel like they like Craig, so obviously Craig would be there. I don't know. It was just like really I was off put that like she wasn't invited to the wedding. And I'm sure it was awkward for Paige all summer. That's probably why she didn't give two shits if they get married or not. She wasn't even invited to the damn wedding. But he said he really needs a hug from Lindsay because she said, what do you need from me? Do you want to call the wedding off? She said, do you want to postpone the wedding? And he was like, no. And he was like blinking 100 times. Like, to me, that was like code for like, yes. But that was shitty too, because literally 3 days after this conversation, he broke it off with Lindsay. So I'm not saying he was going to break it off with her right in the kitchen, but I can't believe he didn't say, like, I really am having some doubt, Lindsay. I love you and I do want to get married, but I do think we should, you know, maybe postpone it. Like, he could have at least said that. He didn't say anything. He was just like, no. And yeah, she's like, what do you need from me? And he said, I really need a hug. The hug was so awful. So unloving. They didn't even kiss. They didn't even say, I love you. And mind you, this is their 1 year anniversary of getting engaged, and they can't even give a nice hug. I would hug the like Amazon package delivery person more loving than these two hugged. And it's because I love my Amazon packages. I would definitely hug the Amazon driver better than Carl and Lindsay are hugging each other. I mean, it's just wild. So everyone is going to head to Montauk, but Lindsay at this point was like, I don't want to go. She's talking to Danielle. And then Danielle was like, you're not even wearing your engagement ring. What's going on? And she's like, then they cut to a commercial. See what I mean? What Bravo does? They have to suck us in, but haha, Bravo, joke's on you. I DVR all my shows, so I fast forward to that shit real quick. Was not panicking during the commercial break. And then Lindsay's like, oh, I just didn't put any of my jewelry on yet. Which is true. I'm like that. Like, I do not if I'm just around the house doing stuff, I don't wear my ring. Definitely when I'm doing like cleaning, cooking, I don't wear my ring. Some people like literally never, ever, ever take it off, like even when they sleep. Certainly, I do not shower and sleep in mine. So Lindsay had just not put all her jewels on yet, but they try to make like something into a big deal, which it was not. But I also said because Lindsay is just really, like, shit talking Carl, even though I feel like they basically did shit talk each other in private all season. But I looked to my husband and I was like, "Could you imagine if they actually did go through with the wedding and they were married right now and they're watching the season back, seeing all the, like, stuff they're saying behind each other's back to, like, friends in the house?" Like, I think they'd get divorced and break up then if they would have made it down the aisle. They'd be watching this and being like, "Oh my god, see ya. All this shit you said behind my back, bye-bye." Um, yeah, it is pretty wild, and it has to be really hard for them, like, a long time has passed since they broke up, but just reliving this, kinda like Ariana not wanting to watch, the season because it was like a lot and they had to film right after they broke up. So Lindsay and Carl are lucky they did not have to film 3 months later after they broke up. So I don't know what they're gonna do this summer with them. I like the idea of alternating them for weekends, that would be interesting. But Carl's like, "Do you wanna go to Montauk?" And Lindsay's like, "I wouldn't mind going, I would like to have fun, though." It's like, no, Carl wants to have a shitty time and argue the whole time in front of everyone, Lindsay. But they are all going out the door and everyone's like, "Oh, are you coming?" And Lindsay's like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to Montauk, but I don't wanna ride with Carl, so if anyone else wants to ride with him, I don't want to." And I'm like, "Oh my god, it's not a far drive from where you guys are. Can you just at least sit in the car and suck it up?" See, the one thing I do have to say about Lindsay is, like, the other episode when she's like, "I don't wanna ride back to the city with you. I wanna stay behind and go to that place Dockers with Danielle and Gabby because I need air." Carl wants to, like, fight with Lindsay and then 5 minutes later just, like, go in the car with her and be trapped. I don't really know why, because that is weird. You need space and breather, but that is the one good thing about Lindsay. She's like, "We're kind of annoyed with each other, so let's have a little breather so we don't make it worse." But just the fact that she couldn't just ride in the short car ride and just be on her phone maybe and disengage from talking that much. Like, she's already setting it up for, like, it's rude and you're ditching him once again and can't even ride in the car with him. But it's like, by all means, Lindsay, don't call the wedding off. Like, that's where I think people are like, "How are you blindsided? You don't even wanna ride in a short little car ride with him or sleep in the same room with him, but you're gonna get married to him," which I do agree with that. I think, like she said, she was just blindsided because 3 days prior to breaking up, he's inviting people to their wedding. So, that is a little goofy. I don't think he woke up that morning and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna break the engagement off with Lindsay." Like, she's thinking, "You've thought about this for weeks probably, and you're not giving me any heads up at all or any preliminary talks to say, 'I'm really having doubts about the wedding. What do you think?'" Instead, it was just like a flat, this breakup. We'll get to it when we get to it. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting. She couldn't even ride in the car with him. But then we get the dramatic 3 days later. And at first I was like, "Oh, this is it. This is it." But then I saw Carl like talking to Kyle at lunch. I'm like, "Oh, wait, it's not it yet." But they meet for lunch and it was the same day. So they go to lunch and then he comes back 2 hours later to the apartment to have the talk. But him and Kyle meet for lunch, and he is just like his hand the whole time is, like, touching his, like, beard and or facial hair, whatever you would like to refer to it as, and mouth the whole time because he's just so nervous. Because I think it's almost like he knows he wants to do it, but he kinda wants, like, reassurance from someone that he's not crazy and he's doing, like, the right thing. So that's why he's looking to Kyle to say, "This is the time that I'm actually asking you to be brutally honest." And Kyle was brutally honest. It was good. And it wasn't like a "I told you so" and blah blah blah, like, or even Danielle felt like that later. Like, she's like, saying something like that is not going to be constructive right now. But Kyle's like, "I'm gonna tell you right now, if you have this much doubt and you guys can't get along at all right now, marriage isn't gonna fix it. It's, if anything, gonna make it worse. It's just kinda like having a kid. Like, people think that's gonna fix a broken marriage. It's not. It's actually gonna make it worse. And now guess what? You're gonna get divorced for sure, and then you have to share a kid with somebody. So that's even worse." Um, then Carl was just telling Kyle after Montauk how, so I guess they had an awful time in Montauk. Why don't we ever get cameras up there? Really disappointed. And we never get cameras in the car. I don't understand why. We only get them on the ride up when everyone's all cheery and nothing's happening. We need cameras on the way back. The car rides back to the city on all these people, all of them. Because then we could probably get shit talking. Like, Paige would probably be like, "Oh my God, can you believe how much Lindsay and Carl fought this weekend and blah, 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 blah." And then, yeah, I want Lindsay and Carl fighting on camera. Like, we already know they're fighting, might as well just air it. Is there lost footage that we could air because they're not, like, married? Because I don't know if anything was devastating that they said and did, and they're like, "Oh, can't put that on TV," but it's like, let's just air it all out. We could do uncut scenes of Summer House, Carl and Lindsay. The final days of Carl and Lindsay. I don't know. I would like that. Maybe Peacock could do that. But Carl said when after their ride back from Montauk, they were fighting the whole time. He said at one point Lindsay was even recording the conversation, which that's never good either. If people are recording each other arguing to like use and like blackmail, that is not a good sign either. And he said when they got back to the city, they had all this glass water, like sparkling water. I don't know why. Maybe they bought it there. I don't know. And she's like angry. She's like raging. She's getting activated with the glass water bottles, which is not safe. And she's like shaking them or something. And then they all explode and break. So he said there's broken glass all over the place. She's like storming off in a huff, as Margaret Josephs would say. And he said they just, she went upstairs, slammed the door in the master bedroom, and that was it. I'm actually like concerned that Lindsay thinks that's all normal. So it's like, that was my only point of like, if this is how you are acting with Carl and you're not even married yet, why don't you want to call the wedding off? Why do you want to be in this relationship any longer if this is how you're acting? So then we get Carl heading back to the apartment. And as soon as he walked through the door, I was like, he's wearing the same outfit he just came from lunch with Kyle. And he's doing all this in the same day. So it said 2 hours later, but it literally felt
5 minutes later.
like no time had passed. And he was like juiced up from that convo with Kyle. And I was like, I can't believe he had that convo with Kyle. And then he's going to have the breakup combo. So Lindsay is sitting on the couch in like a fluffy blankie. And she's like, look, I don't want to fight with you. I always love like when you lead in with that. I feel like if my husband and I get in a fight, I'm like, I don't want to fight with you, but I had to. No, I'm just kidding. But I do kind of feel bad because she said, that she had gotten texts, like, from production. Like, she didn't say this on the show. I'm saying afterwards, like, when the aftermath came and she did interviews and I listened to her on podcasts about everything. She said that Carl set this whole thing up with the production. So, Amanda even said that so this all took place on a Wednesday. On Tuesday, Kyle is getting a text from production saying, "Can you meet Carl for a lunch tomorrow?" And Kyle's just like, "Yeah." Like, not knowing it's gonna be all about this. So, Carl, even though he is, like, denying it, but, like, I don't think production is just calling Carl and being like, "Hi, do you have anything you wanna do this week? You tell us." It's like, no, he called them and said, "I'm gonna break up with Lindsay, but I wanna talk to Kyle about it first, and then I'm gonna break up with Lindsay. Come to our apartment later that day." Like, if not, they would not have been in their apartment filming Lindsay in a blanket doing nothing. So, I do think it's a little dirty that Carl, like, set this all up because how mortifying and embarrassing. That would be like, could you imagine if like, Ariana found out about Raquel on camera? That would have been wild. Like, when he dropped his phone and she saw the video and stuff, that would have been pretty crazy. But see, that wouldn't have been on purpose. The cameras probably would have been there just because he had, like, a show and we were filming his Tom Sandoval and the Most Extras instead of like, "Oh, Ariana's gonna find out that I'm cheating on her. Ugh, come find out." Like, no. But so then Carl has already made up his mind. Like, Lindsay is going into the, like, talk as we're gonna make up and we're gonna get through it, and Carl is, like, dead set on, "Nope, I'm all juiced up on espresso and cappuccinos that I just had with Kyle at my lunch that I was just shit talking you the whole time, and I called the production to be here, and I'm gonna break up with you right on camera." So they kinda start getting into a little argument. And Carl said, "I feel like I'm just a part of your show and I pay rent to be a part of." And I was like, "Wait, are you talking about the show?" But no, it was just weird he used the reference of a show because it's like we're watching you on a show. But he more meant like I'm just on the Lindsay show, and it's, like, all about you, and it's never about me, and it's all about your feelings and not my feelings, and, like, you don't care about my feelings, and he said, "I feel like you just bulldozed me," and this is when it got really dark and crazy. He said, "I think you want me to relapse because you want me to be weak, and you wanna control me even more so than you already do," and I was like, "Oh, damn." I'm telling you, the second that she accused him, which was messed up, of being cocaine Carl and being on drugs in the summer, the relationship was over in his brain. How do you come back from that? So then that's what he starts explaining. He said, all the text messages of all the stuff you have said to me is disgusting. And how do you think I can ever get past that? He probably goes in his phone and like rereads the mean shit she said. And it is true. Like, we all can be mean to each other. We all can say things that we regret to each other. And if anyone tells you that they don't fight with their boyfriend, girlfriend, or spouse, they're full of shit and they're lying to you. And those are probably the ones that are actually violently fighting behind closed doors because no one is perfect. I have fights with my husband, but I don't like accuse him of doing drugs and he's an ex drug addict. Like, you can't say stuff like that. I don't think Lindsay wants him to relapse by any means, but I do think she thinks Carl is a weak person and that he very well could one day. But anybody could that has had a past like that. And that's a scary, sad risk you do take with being someone that is sober. You always are going to think, oh my gosh, are they going to have a moment of weakness? And especially because they are around people that drink, and who knows if people do extracurricular activities such as drugs at some of these parties right in front of Carl, and maybe it could be a trigger. But Lindsay, I'll tell you one thing that's not helping. All the stress and all the fights you guys have, that's usually what causes people to relapse. They don't just decide to wake up and their cheerful, happy life and just relapse. It would be times like this that he's stressed out, and maybe he's even worried that he would go down a dark path. And not to be scary and morbid, but if you are an ex drug user and you just all of a sudden pick up the drug again, like, and you've been sober from it for a while, a lot of people pass away because it's just too much for their body because their body is not used to it any longer. And it almost goes into like a shock and they sadly pass away. And I just thought that was wild that he was saying all that. And he said, at what point do you look in the mirror and say, we love each other, but this isn't working? And she's like, "Well, it sounds like you've made the choice already." And there really was no like, "I love you and I do wanna marry you, but we have some serious issues that we need to work on, and we are postponing the wedding." Like, it was just a point blank, "I'm breaking up with you," but somebody had to. I mean, as Paige said all season, and I agree. I'm not agreeing maybe that Carl called production to do it right on camera, but I applaud Carl for breaking up this engagement that somebody had to like end it, honestly, at this point. I don't know why Lindsay wanted to marry Carl anymore. I don't know if she's like, I'm getting older and at least I have known Carl for a long time. We're both on the show together. We both have the same group of friends. Yes, we fight, but I'm willing to deal with that because I want to get married and I want to have kids. But that's sad. Like, because she wasn't happy and he wasn't happy. So I am glad at the end of the day that Carl pulled the trigger, but pretty wild that we literally watched people break up right in front of us on camera. I was like, this is crazy. So she gets up because she's like, there's no more point to this conversation because you've made the choice, which is true. It's like he doesn't want to reconcile or make up. So why would she even say anything? She goes in the other room and then she goes and calls her parents. And Carl is just talking to the crew in the kitchen because they're like, how are you? And he's like, I gave it my all, but I just feel like this is crazy and it's like I can't do it. He's like, I do love her and I am doing this because I care about her because we're not going to be happy. And he's like, I'd rather do this than get divorced, which is so true. And that's what Paige has said. And she's, like, telling her parents. It's so weird, and, like, literally in the other room, and she has them, like, on speaker, obviously so we can hear. But, I feel like she was talking to the camera people right before she went in there. She's like, "I don't know what you want from me." And it's like, that was probably really awkward. Like, it's like, this would have been a sad enough conversation, the 2 of them, but then you got, like, I don't know how many people are in there, 5 people, like, just staring at you being like, "Ooh, you just got broken up with." Like, now you have to talk about it on camera. And they were just like, "Oh, boy." Like, her parents, like, I feel like that would be so weird, though, to call your parents, be like, "Hey, I'm no longer engaged." And Carl is then, so he's still in the kitchen talking to the production, and he said, you know, "I already know what she's gonna do. She's gonna play victim. She's done this ever since we've met." And that's what I mean, like, the way he talks about her, it's like, why did you ever propose to her then if you feel like she always plays victim and spin things in, like, a narrative that is making you always to be the bad guy? Like, why would you want that to be your wife? It's just crazy. And then he said that their landlord had emailed her about how loud one of their fights was, which is so crazy and embarrassing. So it's like, I mean, they are in an apartment in New York. So it's like, I'm sure you hear people even when they're laughing in their apartments. But for people to write to the landlord there and complain that they are fighting and then the landlord has to email you, that's so embarrassing. And I mean, they pay $12,000 a month for their apartment, I'm sure, as do some other people in that building. So they don't want to hear no freaking fighting from these people. They want to have peace. And then he said, "I don't know how she doesn't know this isn't going to work because I feel like the writing's been on the wall all summer." And he ripped the Band-Aid off, and I applaud him, honestly. So then we have all the ladies meeting up at Danielle's apartment, and Paige and Amanda get there first, and then Gabby, and then Ciara. And Paige said that Carl did actually, or no, I'm sorry, that Paige did text Carl. Because at the end of the day, you got to remember, Paige wasn't on season 1, but she came on very early. I didn't watch Summer House when it first started. I had to do catch up like real quick during COVID, actually. So I made my friend watch Vanderpump Rules to get into the Bravo universe. And I was like, you know what? This is a good time to start a new show that I've never watched. So that's when I started to watch Summer House. So I had to, catch up pretty quick. So I don't like, seasons are like a blur to me at the beginning. But Paige did text Carl because, she is still friends with Carl. And it's not like she was that close to Lindsay where she's going to 100% be on Lindsay's side. So she texts Carl and was like, just thinking about you. Hope you're doing okay. And he's like, thanks, Paige. Like, that's really nice. And Gabby is new, so she really has only been friends with Lindsay, and she really thinks it's like 100% Carl's fault. She is seeing no side on Lindsay. And Amanda, says we can't point fingers at one person because she's also stuck between a rock and a hard place because she now is coworkers again with Carl, and she's always been friends with Carl too. So she can't throw him under the bus completely, and her husband is best friends with Carl. And Gabby was getting really mad at Amanda for that. And I did like kind of think too, it's like, girl, you like just got here last season. Like, that's great that you've gotten really close with Lindsay, but like all these people have known Lindsay and Carl way longer than you and been on this show longer than you. So it's like, why are you just saying it's totally awful that Carl did this? Like, do you think Lindsay and Carl should have got married? Like, why aren't you talking to Lindsay and saying, "Hey, are you sure you want to do this?" Like, you literally accused him of doing drugs twice this summer. Like, do you want to be married to him? Like, I thought that was a little weird. She's getting like so mad at Amanda. And Amanda wasn't like saying these things to cause a fight. She was just saying like, I can't totally say it's all Carl's fault. Like, he did have to do it. Like, maybe we can all agree it was maybe mean and harsh. He did it on camera. Can't really break the fourth wall so much, but they did a little bit in this episode. But it is like, yeah, it's weird. And then that's when Amanda does break the fourth wall a little bit, and she says that Kyle got the text just the day before to go to lunch with Carl. So that's when Gabby was getting like activated for Lindsay, saying this was all like a stunt, PR stunt for Carl against PR Lindsay. But Ciara's like, you know what? All of you hush. And I want to know Danielle's point of view because she's the one that kinda called it out last summer and got shitted on, and now look what's happening. And Danielle's like, "Well, I'm definitely not gonna say, like, I told you so because I don't feel that way. I was just feeling that way last summer because I didn't want something like this to happen, and I don't wanna see her heartbroken." And she was just trying on her wedding dress, like, a couple weeks ago, and they were all at the shower a couple weeks ago. So that's why I think everyone is a little like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he did break up with her," because you're letting her have the shower, and then, they were all in the Hamptons together 3, 4 days prior to this, and he's inviting Jesse Solomon to the wedding last minute, but still no Paige. And then the doorbell rings, and it's obviously Lindsay. She is crying. This is when she does get emotional because she didn't cry at all with Carl, and I think it's because she was just in shock. Like, sometimes people are just in such shock that they're not gonna sit there and cry. So I don't think it's because she had no emotion. She's just probably, like, angry, shocked. This production is staring at her in the face with cameras, and she's like, "I can't believe this is happening. Is this real?" Almost like a outer body experience, I feel like. So she's crying. She said she was just blindsided. And then you could tell, like, I like when they always say things that are gonna, like, stun other people, and they, like, pan the camera to, like, Ciara and Paige, like, their facial reactions. And this is what I do 100% agree with her, though. She's like, "He's using my personality as a breakup excuse when I've always been the same person," which is so true. I mean, you gotta give it to her. She's never changed her personality. She always has just been the same person. I'm actually gonna play the, little clip real quick just to see, like, exactly what she said.
Man, like, I cannot understand this. Like, how could you do this to your best friend of 8 years? Like, you absolutely humiliated me. You f***ing blindsided me without, like, warning. Like, he didn't even consider what he was doing. I don't get that part. He hasn't been honest with me. Like, I don't understand what happened here. Like, this is the person I've always been. Like, the person you've always known. Like, we've been best friends for so long. Like, you knew me.
And I agree with her. Like, you knew her and you saw her firsthand with boyfriends. I mean, if you thought she was gonna change for you, then that's a problem. Just like you don't wanna change for her. Oh, wait, I was gonna say the laundry list that Carl gave of all the careers. I'm sorry, I forgot. So when they were breaking up, he was like, "And everything I've said that I wanna do as a career, you shoot down and you've been unsupportive of that. Like, I wanted to do the sober bar, you said no. I wanted to do a cigar line, you said no. I wanted to do acting, you said no." And I'm like, "What?" Like, Carl, all of these things are, like, so different. Like, no wonder she's saying no. A cigar line? Like, where'd that come from? At this point, he's gonna be like, "I wanna buy the hot dog stand down the street," and you said no. Like, it's like, yeah, because you're, like, just spewing out all these random, like, different careers. Like, it's not like it was all non-alcoholic related, and she was saying no. Like, the sober sports bar relates to kinda, like, representing the non-alcoholic part of Loverboy. So, like, you could say that goes hand in hand, but actor? You're gonna be an actor? No, bye. I wouldn't wanna see you in movies, no offense. Um, Cigar line? That is so random. I don't remember if he said anything else. I need to rewatch that part, but I was like, "What? You're losing me now at this point." So weird. But, yeah, I agree with her. She's just like, "He knew me. Why would he do this? He's blindsiding me. He's inviting Jesse Solomon 3 days before, and then he's doing this and whatever." And then Paige is like, "He did you a favor. He did you a favor because you guys were arguing too much, and now, like, you need to let him go. Let him go so you can let someone in that you're gonna be happy with and that's gonna be happy with you." And I agree with that. Like, she wants to meet someone that's gonna like her for her. Her, non-tenderness, her non-loviness, her I'm hard and abrasive, and yeah, I drink alcohol. Like, I do think it would have been a problem also. Like, let's put aside all the non-soft, tender, loving care that Lindsay drinks and Carl doesn't. I'm sorry, I think Carl needs to be with a sober person, which is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Usually that's how it works for couples because How can you see your partner getting drunk and you can't because you have a problem with alcohol? So it's like even kissing them, like you would taste the alcohol on their mouth and stuff. And it's just like you left that lifestyle because you didn't like the type of person you were under it. So why would you want to be with someone that's still in that lifestyle? So I think that would have bit them in the butt, honestly, down the road as well. But I will say I did tear up a little when Lindsay was like, "I've loved Carl for so long, and I waited for him to be ready. Like all the stupid boys I dated, I was just passing time until Carl was ready." Meaning like until he was a mature person. Because I also do think that Lindsay could have never been with Carl while he was drinking because he was an asshole. He reminds me of like the Mike the Situation on Jersey Shore. Like he was the biggest asshole on Jersey Shore, and now he's the nicest one because he does not drink and do drugs anymore. Like, it's almost like James also on Vanderpump Rules. I'm really touching it from all around. Um, I hated James when he drank. He was a complete asshole. But him sober, I love him. He's wonderful, and I think he's a wonderful partner to Allie because he gave up the alcohol. Lala can still be a brat, sober or drunk. So sometimes see positive things from her, but sometimes I don't. So I think Mike the Situation and James are better examples, just to be honest, because they really did a 180 turnaround and so did Carl. So when Lindsay and Carl, remember, did like hook up back in the day, the finger banging summer incident, he was still drinking. And they had that like weird, awkward fight on her rooftop deck because she like wanted to be with him and he didn't. But like, yeah, he was a completely different person then. But she couldn't have been with drunk Carl and she couldn't be with sober Carl, obviously, as we see. So that just means she can't be with Carl, period, because sober or not, it just wasn't working. But then they all do a nice little group hug. And Paige is like, "This is what you get for not inviting me to the wedding." And I was like waiting for her to say something like this. And if Kyle was there, he'd be like, "This is what you get for making me a flower boy." He probably said to Carl in private. And it will be, tucked under the rug forever. He probably did say, "Hey, at least at your next wedding, make me a groomsman or a best man. And I think this is why you didn't get married because you didn't want me to be the flower boy." So I will be looking forward seeing Kyle having a real role in Carl's wedding whenever that day happens. And just really curious what comes for Lindsay. So on the reunion, we do find out that she is seeing somebody. I heard some tips and tea that it's perhaps somebody from her past. So that's going to be interesting if that is true. And they're like, "Hey, we're all going to Mexico. Like, we can't refund and get refunds on anything." And Lindsay's like, "Yeah, let's just go to Mexico." I mean, that's the other shitty thing. Carl waited too long that no one could get a refund. So it's like everyone had to go because who's going to be like, "Oh, yeah, I'll lose all my money on that resort." And like, they definitely could have gotten a credit for airfare, but you can't for the resort. So what are you going to be like? "Oh, just never mind." No, you're still going to freaking go. So I know that everyone still went and um he didn't go, but Lindsay went. So that was good. And then Paige was like, "I'll go too." Like it's just so awkward like her to be there to support Lindsay, but she wasn't even invited to the wedding. Like, oh, that has to be so weird. But yeah, I'm really excited for the reunion. I think everyone looked good. Lindsay had like a little revenge bod going on. I mean, she's always been in shape, but I feel like she, lost a little bit of weight. Not that she needed to, but I could tell she was like hitting the gym after this breakup, and she was looking good. And on the preview too for the reunion, he's like, "I left the apartment and I paid 9 months rent." And she's like, "Good, you should. What do you want, a pat on the back?" And I was like, "Oh, shit." And Andy was like, "Show of hands, who thinks that Carl is afraid of Lindsay?" And everyone raised their hand. Lindsay raised her hand. And then even Carl raised his hand. And Andy raised his hand. I'm like, "Oh my God, that's so embarrassing." So it's like, you were afraid of her, but that was like your fiance. And then it's like, Lindsay, you think he was afraid of you, but you still wanted to marry him? I hope that's also a question too that Andy says or someone writes in. Like, Lindsay, if you thought like he was relapsed on drugs and you were fighting with him so much, why did you want to ultimately still get married? I'd love to hear that answer because it is true. Like, I feel like she's shitting on him for breaking them up, but it's like somebody had to do it. I mean, like I said, someone was going to have to come out of the woodwork. Like Kyle was probably going to get ready to pay someone to pop up in Mexico and object to the wedding, like a stranger, because Paige couldn't come. Maybe they would have paid for Paige to be a wedding crasher and she could have done it. She's like, I'll take one for the team. I'll do it. But let's take a short little break and then we will just do a little like Bravo tea that's been happening in the universe. All right, so let's just get into a little Bravo tea that has been happening. So, as we touched on in my episode with my friend Brianna about Jax walking around with that big titty girl, Paige Woolen, um, Sheena on her podcast the other day was kind of divulging a little information on how Jax and Paige even got like introduced in the same realm because I saw on Jax's Instagram, so I screenshot it and posted it, that he said, I am not dating anyone. I do not have a girlfriend. I wish you guys knew the whole story. So I'm like, well, please divulge the whole story. So on Sheena's podcast the other day when I was listening to it, she kind of lightly touched on something, but I still find it a little fishy.
Wait, how did Jax meet Paige? I mean, if he, because I guess I thought she was somehow in the friend group already.
No, apparently Paige's dad won a round of golf at some like charity event to play a round of golf with Jax. And then he was like, oh, you should meet my daughter.
Really? Not pimping out her daughter.
No, can I also tell you just like.
So that was strange. I don't know if the dad like selected that to be what he would win in the charity event, because I'm gonna tell you right now, she was like 32, I'm 33. My dad, we probably have dads around the same age. My dad doesn't even know who these people are, and if he did, he would not want that to be what he wins at a charity event, golfing with Jax Taylor, and can Jax Taylor even golf well? So, as they're golfing together, which is just odd, um, he's like, "Oh, you should meet my daughter." Well, why are you saying that? Because when you and Jax are golfing, he's hopefully telling you that he's married and has a child and that he's like on reality TV. And or does her dad already know who he is, that he's on reality TV? Even more concerning that you want your daughter to meet Jax. So now the question is, was this lunch set up like by the dad, which is weird? Because she did pick him up in a limo, which I had said, which is really weird. And now he's trying to spin it like, "Oh, I'm not dating anyone. She's not my girlfriend. Like, I love Brittany." He didn't say I love Brittany, but like insinuating like, I don't want everyone to make this into a thing to get Brittany mad at me, even though she did say a long time ago on the Not Skinny But Not Fat podcast that they could date people because they're separated. But obviously, it wouldn't be comforting to see your spouse who you're separated from, whom you're supposed to be taking like a little break to work on yourself so maybe you could come back and have a healthy marriage. Like, it wouldn't be comforting seeing him moving on and getting a new girlfriend because you'd be like, oh, well, obviously you don't want to work on our marriage. Like, might as well just get divorced. Bye bye. But I find that very interesting that her dad, like, introduced them, I suppose, and that's how she even knows him. And then her screaming out, like, I'm pregnant as a joke at Jeremy Maddox's birthday. That was weird. So I don't know, because she was in a whole different outfit too. So it's like, if you were just out because this guy you golfed with said, meet my daughter, and it's more like a, oh, meet this celebrity I just golfed with because maybe she wanted to. Why are you bringing her to Jeremy's birthday lunch? And they looked like they were standing pretty close together. And she was at the bar at the same time I think Brittany was when they did like some like watch party for the Valley. I don't know. And then Brittany's t-shirt that she had on that night said, my boyfriend's out of town. So I'm like, okay. And then more juicy scoop on them, that Lori K back in a picture with Brittany. So Sheena wrote under the picture WTF, and she said Lori K text her to take that comment down. She went, no, because A, I'm confused by Brittany's t-shirt saying my boyfriend's out of town, and B, WTF that you two were in a photo together when all those rumors were circulating about Jax. And also, may I just touch back on the Jax is like, I'm not in a relationship, I'm not dating anyone. All right, well, can you add to that line you're not sleeping with anyone? Because we're not saying this big titty girl is your girlfriend all of a sudden and you're going to like marry her, but are you sleeping with her? Mm-hmm. You left that part out. Like, not dating. You don't have to date people to have sex with them because apparently he allegedly had sex in a bathroom with that Lori K lady, which she's married too. I don't know. That's just a whole cluster mess. And I will say it again, probably for the 100th time. It is a disservice that we are not getting a reunion for the Valley. I don't understand why. Like, let's just get them all at the clubhouse if we need to watch what happens live for it. I don't know. Or like, Andy, fly out there and make it happen. Why are they not doing that? Because they're getting another season. So it's not like they're not doing a reunion because they're not getting another season. And there would be a lot of explosive fights at this reunion, let me tell you. It'd be a good one. It'd be better than the Vanderpump one, honestly. But speaking of no reunions, I woke up today and read that the Real Housewives of New Jersey reunion canceled. That is wild. I am concerned for the future of the show because, like I said, I'm going to be recapping Jersey with a friend. So we will have that out on Tuesday. But so I'm recording this on Saturday. So I read the news on Saturday that they are not having a reunion. And Teresa or Melissa's going to be fired. I mean, the fact that they're canceling a reunion, it's not like someone died. I don't know why that they wouldn't have one. Why? Because Teresa absolutely refuses to be in a room with Melissa. Well, then at this point, we need to fire Teresa because you're letting her control and dictate the show. I highly doubt Melissa would say, I refuse to film a reunion because she would be terrified that they'd be like, all right, then hit the bricks. Bye-bye. So Teresa seems more like the, no, I'm not going to do that than Melissa. Um, I think it's crazy. I think it's not fair to everyone else on the cast. And I'm sure they're saying that because I think your pay is based on how many episodes you have. So think about it. If they were going to have a 2 or 3-part reunion, that's 3 extra episodes that you would be getting paid for. And someone like a Rachel or Danielle who are lower on the totem pole for pay, that's a big deal to them. Not big deal for Teresa getting like $2 million a season. She probably doesn't care. But that's what I mean. Maybe at this point, then you need to fire her. And she's the highest paid. So that would be easy to cut the highest paid. And like I said before, I think they will have no choice but to get rid of Teresa because she has like one friend on the show, and it's Jennifer Aiden. And Jennifer Aiden looks like she kind of wants to be friends with other people, but is terrified to because of Teresa. Because in real life, she really is friends with Teresa. But on camera, she's probably like, I need to talk to these people. But she knows that if she talks to Melissa, Teresa will be upset with her. So the only time she does talking to Melissa is for like conflict. But that may bite her in the butt too. They may get rid of Teresa and Jennifer Aiden. Like if they got rid of Teresa, Melissa would actually be friends with everyone on the cast. Teresa's friends with Dolores. I forgot about Dolores, but Dolores almost doesn't count because she's friends with both of them and is always Team Switzerland and never chooses a side. So if you want to say only Total Alliance / Soldier to refer to back in the day terms, it's Jennifer Aiden. Whereas, like I said, Melissa talks to everyone, and I think Melissa is friends with these new friends of, but like, I don't care about these friends of. Like, they were like at that softball game, and I'm like, nobody cares about that big lip lady. Nobody cares. Like, just give me the people that are already there. And we got Rachel and Danielle last year. So it's like, I don't like when they do like a new person every season because it's like, can you chill? I'm still like adjusting to Danielle and Rachel and them. Very annoying. But we'll talk more about Jersey when we have our Jersey episode. Another thing that's happening in the Bravo universe, Sonia Morgan finally sold that damn townhouse that I feel like has been on the market since like she lived in it. So she had to keep doing extreme price reductions. I was always like, I can't believe she can't sell this. I mean, I wonder if she had to like leave the Morgan letters there just so it could sell. I remember when she was like, don't touch the Morgan letters. but I'm sure she is happy for that townhouse to finally be sold. I feel like it was always like falling apart. And I bet if you go in person, it looks even worse falling apart. And apparently it's near like a parking garage, which that's not fun to pay a lot of money and then live next to some parking garage in New York City. Like New York City's loud enough and annoying enough with people. Like you don't want visitors parking their vehicles at all hours of the night. Whenever I see like New York real estate, I'm like, this is wild. Like, way would rather have a giant house in the Hollywood Hills or a nice giant house in Florida or something, or like some island than like some little ass apartment in New York. Like, even if it is a penthouse apartment, it's little compared to having a big house. But I actually noticed that it was Sonia's townhouse. I was just like on Instagram and it said like, "Come with us and look at this like townhouse that's for sale." And then it was like showing the pictures and I'm like, "That looks like Sonia's townhouse." And then I looked at comments underneath and people were like, "That's Sonia's townhouse." And they were like, I was like, wrote, "Don't touch the Morgan letters." So glad for her, happy for her that it is sold. That is good. I feel like that's kind of it. Really don't know what else is happening. I'm sure things will always just pop up. But yeah, I'm really excited for the Summer House reunion. We're getting 2 parts. And then Jersey, like I said, that'll be coming out on Tuesday because I'm going to have a guest on Monday. Very excited. So that'll be a video episode. And if you guys didn't check my last episode, that was a video one also with my friend Brianna. It was her 3rd time on the podcast. We recapped the last part of the Vanderpump Rules finale. Reunion, not finale. And then the Valley. Oh, I do have to side note. This is like in the realm of VPR and the Bravo T. So obviously everyone was coming down hard on Lala about how she acted at the reunion. She is now coming out and saying, and as is Sheena. Sheena kind of touched on it later in her podcast on that same episode that I just played the clip from. She said that their producer, Alex Baskin, was basically like mid-season, things really need to pick up and shift gears because if not, it's going to be a short season and the show's going to be canceled. So he threatened to actually take their paychecks away. And that's when I feel like the producer hat went on Lala and maybe a little bit on Sheena, more like sidecar producer hat. And Lala's like, I got to step this shit up and turn this show into something that's going to last and get another season because I need that paycheck. And if it meant throwing Ariana under the bus, she was never really like close with Ariana. She definitely never liked Sandoval. So that's why it was weird when she shifted gears with him. But it's not like she was best friends with Ariana. At this point, I wouldn't put it past Lala to do that to anyone on the show because we have to remember when Lala came on the show at the beginning, nobody liked her. She had no friends. So even though her and Sheena are close now and they have daughters that are close and hang out, I don't know. She would maybe even throw Sheena under the bus because she's just getting too like into I'm on TV. I need to do it for the TV show, which is scary because then you're not separating it. It's like, yes, it is a reality show, but you can't act on the reality show and then think in real life that these people aren't going to forgive you because they're like, no, it's just like, it's not like turn it on and off and like we're acting. Like this is reality TV. It's our real life. So if you are being mean to me on our reality show, you're being mean to me in real life. So that was interesting tidbit. So I feel like they're also pulling that out of their butt so that Ariana isn't mad at them. So it's almost like, oh, we didn't mean it. Don't be mad at me. Meh. Like I had to do it for the show. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting moving forward. Nobody went and supported the something about her opening or soft opening except Schwartz. So no one has gone. So Lala, when she was on her Amazon Live, somebody said, "Are you going to go to the sandwich store?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't. They're open. Oh, good for them. I didn't know they were open." It's like, yeah, you did. They even said on the reunion or when they were going to be open. And they're just like, I don't go into West Hollywood. It's like, you sure do when you're filming the show. And it's like, don't act like you live in a different state. You live in the Valley, which doesn't take that long to get to West Hollywood. Like, if it's that important for you to support your friends, you would drive to anywhere. You would drive to Las Vegas and support them. Like, you drive to Palm Springs all the time. That's further away than West Hollywood. If Sheena was opening a good as gold candy store, your butt would be in West Hollywood supporting that. So I find all those excuses sad. And then, of course, her assistant, who is up her butt, and her brother chime in the background. You never see them on her Amazon Lives. They're just like sitting there staring at her, I suppose. I don't know. And they're like, oh, yeah, when it's on Postmates, we'll definitely support it. We're going to support it. And it's like, oh my God, always saving her, always making Lala not be wrong, always making her like, I don't know. It's like, she never agrees to disagree. And that's what I'm starting to get annoyed about with Lala. That's what my friend and I talked all about. So if you guys missed that episode, make sure you tune into that one of the VPR and Valley recap. And as always, this was a phenomenal time. I feel like we got a lot covered. We did SummerHouse. We did some Bravo tea that's happening. And I even had Bella come on and do the little intro with me, which she really enjoyed. As always, this was so fun. And you could find me on Instagram at Bravo Tea with the Stay at Home Mom, Spotify, and Apple. Till next time, see ya.